What's up, guys? I'm your host, Cody Brockway, and you are back here for another brand new segment of Brockway's Vinyl Bites, baby. Woohoo! So, a little while ago, I did a video about the best progressive rock and progressive metal album openers. So now I'm like, well, of course, you got to match that up. You got to talk about the album closers. So this is all about the album closers in prog. The best album closers in prog. Progressive rock and progressive metal. I got you on lock here. I pulled out 10 songs for me that really perfectly close out these amazing and brilliant albums. Of course, if you have more songs that you'd like to add or mention, with this list, feel free to leave a comment, be respectful, and I'm glad to hear from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as we get into the video, we start now with Peter Gabriel from his very first solo outing. Of course, he'd leave Genesis in 1975, and he'd come out with this brilliant solo album in 1977. You have the big hit single, Salisbury Hill, on this, but the way he ends this album is absolutely perfect with Here Comes the Flood. Now, there's so many different versions of this. There's one version that he did on Robert Fripp's solo album. There's a version that he did on his Greatest Hits album like 20 years later. But we're talking about the original 1977 version. All the versions are good, but this one, the bombast and the epicness to everything, the dynamics is just really happening. And, Bob Ezrin's production's really cool. And just a great, great song. Fantastic way to end this fantastic album. Drink Up Dreamers, You're Running Dry. 7.5 minutes. Arguably the shortest song on this list, actually. But, just a perfect, perfect album closer. Yeah. When the night shows, the signals grow on radios. Here's me quoting lyrics. Here we go. Peter Gabriel, Here Comes the Flood. And we're going to go more modern times into 2021 from the final Transatlantic album. Of course, this is the big version, the big extended version, Forevermore. Transatlantic, the absolute universe. This is where you got Roy Stoltz, Neil Morse, Pete Travis, and Mike Portnoy all getting together for their sort of final goodbye in the studio. Now, there is two versions of this album. There's the big triple LP one that I've got here. Then there's the abridged, shorter version because they couldn't really agree on a running order and mixes and all that. So both albums are very different. But the one that I've chose is from this version, and it is Love Made Away. It is just an absolutely tremendous song. it is Neil Morse having 8.5 minutes. Just totally, this whole album has this certain flow and this whole concept to it, and this song perfectly sends the album off on a really lovely, beautiful note. Neil Morse, Transatlantic, absolutely fantastic album. If you haven't heard it, you definitely should. But the epic album closer, Love Made Away, absolutely fantastic. So good. And next up, we're going heavy with this next one. We're going to go to 2001, so 20 years before this one. Of course, from the lovely, epic, chaotic, brutal, and beautiful Swedish group Opeth, you got Blackwater Park. The title track sends off this album. I just love the dynamics in this. I love how it's crushingly heavy. The growls are on point. Everything's happening. Then all of a sudden, all that drops out, and you get these beautiful sort of classical acoustic guitar stylings, similar to that of, say, like Steve Howe for a little bit. And the harmonies and just the melodies and everything going on in this are just gorgeous. And then the electric guitar comes back in with the growls and the double kicks. It's just an absolutely beautiful, brilliant, dynamic piece of music. If you haven't heard it, would definitely recommend. I love Opeth, and they have so many of their songs are different styles. Like they go on full on jazz, they go full on 70s progressive rock, and they got the death metal thing going on pretty perfectly here as well. Opeth, Blackwater Park, and the track Blackwater Park, sending off this epic album. Michael Ackerfeld and friends. Oh, I talk about Opeth all the time here on Brockway's Final Bites. You know what's up. Then we're going to America, and the band that did the Song for America album. And of course, the song that we're talking about is not Song for America, but it is the song that sends off this record, In Commudro, Hymn to the Atman from Kansas, going back to 1975. I love Phil Ehart's drum solo in the middle of this. It's absolutely fantastic, but the whole composition is just fantastic. You get Steve Walsh and those beautiful vocals over top. Coming in at over 12 minutes, it is just an absolutely epic album closer. As soon as it comes on, we hear the opening notes of it, and Tara is always like, "Ee!" So good. But yeah, it does that to you, because Kansas are a great band, and this is really showing that they are totally a prog band. And yeah, Incomudro, Hymn to the Atman, just a fantastic. No one questioned their prog credibility, and if you do, you're wrong, man. Kansas is just fantastic, and this album and song proves it. Incomudro, Hymn to the Atman, awesome. Okay, now going back to the Brits, as we do. 1974, this band would split up after this for a couple of years, then they'd regroup and split up and regroup. They regrouped so many times, but this is a truly classic lineup from this band, King Crimson. You got John Wetton, Bill Bruford, Robert Fripp on the Red album. And then, of course, they'd put this out, and Robert Fripp here would go, "Oh, that's enough." And then 6 years, 7 years, they're done. Come back in 1981 with a totally different lineup, still with Bruford in the fold. But we're talking about this record here, and what a great way to send off this absolutely fantastic album is the song Starless. Wow. 12 and a half minutes. Absolutely epic. I love the way that the time signatures flow and change in the middle of this piece of music. It is an absolute mind bender of a tune, but it's dark, it's somber, it's beautiful, it's heavy, but it's just all of these amazing things. And if you like dark and heavy and interesting music, it's right here for you, man. Starless from King Crimson, absolutely fantastic, brilliant. And you know what else is brilliant? Is that little band from Toronto, Ontario. That's right, from my stomping ground, sort of, about an hour away. Rush. Going back to 1978, from their Hemispheres album. They really knew what they were doing here, man. They wrote one of the most epic pieces that you could ever write in all of progressive rock history. You get La Via Strangiato sending off their Hemispheres album. Wow, what an amazing way to end this record, eh? Just fantastic. All three of those guys just absolutely firing on all cylinders. It's an instrumental track, 9.5 minutes, but it just totally flies right by. You go, that was 10 minutes? No way. It was like 3 minutes, man. No, it was 9.5 minutes, but it just flows so well, and the playing is so interesting that it never gets tiring or boring. Rush, La Via Strangiato, my hometown heroes, love them. Love it. And I actually do a drum cover of La Via Strangiato. It's right here on Brockway's Vinyl Bites. If you go onto my channel and you go in the playlist tab, you'll see a playlist for my drum covers, and I do a cover of La Via Strangiato. It's in there if you want to check it out. And don't forget to like and subscribe too. I mean, you can always do that, you know. Now, another band that was absolutely inspired by Rush, and they'll tell you so themselves, of course. We're talking about the band that I'm going to see next week with Tara O'Reilly, and I'm actually going to meet them. I'll have to do a little bit of a vlog or something maybe to sort of commemorate that. But Dream Theater are coming to Toronto next week, and they're actually playing the title track to this in their set, which is the song that ends off the album. Octavarium, 24 minutes, one of the most brilliant pieces of music I've ever heard. Beautiful vocals from James Labrie, insane guitar playing from John Petrucci, and of course the keyboard wizardry from Jordan Rudess is absolutely fantastic, and some of the lyric writing from Mike Portnoy, and of course the compositions penned by all the guys. It's absolutely insane. It goes from this Pink Floyd-esque like intro to this absolute blast of insanity in the middle, and back out to the gorgeousness. Oh, it just 24 minutes of absolute brilliance. And like I said with the Rush song, you listen to this and it just goes right by, and you go, wow, that just felt like no time at all, because it really sucks you in. And I've showed this song to people who are not, normally Dream Theater fans, and they heard it and go, wow, that was really good. So Octavarium, the 24-minute epic that closes out this album, is fantastic. I absolutely love it. And they have so many great epics too. Of course, you got View from the Top of the World, you got Illumination Theory, you got one from their latest album, the Shadow Man Incident, Change of Seasons, obviously, but something about Octavarium, it really sort of runs the gamut. It takes you all around the world and back in 20 minutes. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Now we go ahead to my favorite band of all time. Of course, so many of these bands are really up there for me, but you know how much I love Genesis. From 1972, the way that they send off the Foxtrot record with the 22-minute epic, or 23 minutes, I should say, that is Supper's Ready. Oh my God. The vocals from Peter Gabriel in this are absolutely some of the best vocals he ever laid to tape ever. That last line when he sings about to take them to the New Jerusalem and he holds that big high note at the end is just gorgeous. The flourishes and the parts from Steve Hackett, amazing. The solo from Tony Banks in Apocalypse in 9/8 when he's playing the solo in 4/4 and Steve Hackett, Mike Rutherford, and Phil Collins are playing the rhythm section in 9/8, and Phil Collins is actually juggling between Tony's solo in 4/4 and the 9/8 rhythm. He's playing between the two. It's so intense. I mean, even he recorded that, and he goes, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that again. But he did. They played it live, and it worked really well. Supper's Ready, one of the most brilliant pieces of music ever made. Genesis. Oh, awesome. What a great way to send off this classic Foxtrot record. Next up, we've got one of the highest-selling albums of all time, Pink Floyd. Yeah, From Dark Side of the Moon. The whole concept and flow and atmosphere of this album, everything seems to conclude so perfectly within the last two cuts that flow together, Brain Damage and Eclipse. Absolutely magnificent way to send off this record. I'll See You on the Dark Side of the Moon. When he sings that in the chorus with that beautiful melody and just that, it feels a certain way when you listen to it. It's just you listen to the whole album and you come out with that. Just an absolutely epic, brilliant way to send off this one of the greatest albums of all time. You don't need me to tell you too much about this. You know this album inside out and backwards like all of us do. And finally, we come to the last pick. Of course, you got to have some Yes on here. Going back to 1972, it's actually the second appearance of Mr. Bill Bruford, the drummer, on this list. Fragile, of course, this is the newly remixed and remastered version that just came out, the Steven Wilson edition of Fragile, and the song is Heart of the Sunrise. One of the finest songs in Yes's catalog, clocks in at just over 10 minutes. This is on green vinyl, check it out. So cool. Clocks in at just over 10 minutes. It's all band members just absolutely playing perfectly together. And you might even say that this is peak Yes. This period of them is just, it's kind of unmatched in how brilliant it is. And this song remains one of their best and greatest songs ever. The sharp, bang, distance. Ooh, awesome. So good. And the solos from Rick Wakeman and just the way that everything gels is so perfectly. The dynamics flow so awesomely, and I love it. It's great. Yes, Heart of the Sunrise. So, going back to the beginning, we had Peter Gabriel, Here Comes the Flood, Transatlantic, Love Will Find a Way, Opeth, Blackwater Park, Kansas, Kansas, In Commudro, Hymn to the Atman, King Crimson, Starless, Rush, La Via Strangiato, Dream Theater, Octavarium, Genesis, Supper's Ready, Pink Floyd, Brain Damage and Eclipse, and yes, Heart of the Sunrise. Absolutely some of the best progressive rock and progressive metal album closers in all of history. But hey, if you've got some more you want to add to this list, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm your host, Cody Brockway, and you have been watching Brockway's Vinyl Bites, baby. Woo! And we'll see you next time. Rock on!